We continue now at the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Shevuos. This is Shavuos Daf 3a. On the previous summit, the Gemara asked, why is it that Meseches Shevuos follows Meseches Makos, and the Gemara is in the middle of answering. Since towards the end of Meseches Makos, we discuss Ve'al Hazoken Shtayim Mikan Ushtayim Mikan V'Yachas Milmata. When it comes to the prohibition of destroying the beard, so there are two areas on each side of the face which count in terms of that prohibition, and one at the bottom of the beard area which counts for that prohibition. So the point over there is that chada de mechayev ala tarti. When it comes to the situation of destroying the beard or cutting the payas, it's one violation, it's one azhara, but you have more than one. You can have two different liabilities. You have more than one liability involved in that case, and so therefore Tana Shevuos Shtayim Shein Arba. So therefore, there's a similarity over here in the beginning of Mesechet Shevuos. So we have Mesechet Shevuos, which also talks about the idea that there are two which are four, like there are two primary violations, and then there are four total because there are two secondary violations. So that's a similar kind of language that is used in that Mishnah at the end of Meseches Makos. And the Gemara continues, Ma'ishna hacha detani luhu lekulu, u'ma'ishna gabe yitzias Shabbos u'marus negoyim, delo katani luhu lekulu. Why is it that in this Mesechet, in this Mishnah, we list all of the cases of two which are four? That's what this Mishnah does. It talks about Shevuos, the kinds of os, which are two which are four, and then it goes through all of the various cases where you have two that are actually four, like Yitzias HaShabbos, Marus Negoyim, etc. But in Yitzias HaShabbos, meaning when this is mentioned in Shabbos, and when this is mentioned by Negoyim, we don't go through the entire list. We just say that Yitzias HaShabbos, for example, is two which is four, without going through all the other examples of something which is two and four. And the Gemara continues and answers Amri. They answer as follows: Shavuos v'Yedias Hatuma. When it comes to oaths and when it comes to Yedias Hatuma, again, Yedias Hatuma is talking about a situation where there was a lapse of awareness. The person did not realize that he was tamei. Degabe hadadi ksiv. And so, number one, those two are written near each other in the Torah. V'damian hadadi, and they're also similar to each other. B'karban olav v'yored, because you bring a carbon olav v'yored. Again, a carbon olav v'yored is a carbon that varies depending on the person's wealth, but they are similar. And so, therefore, tani lahu gabe hadadi. So, therefore, they put that together in this Mishnah. We're already going to put Shavuos together with Yedias Hatuma because that is so similar because of the fact, again, that they're written together and they both have a carbon olav v'yored. Now, once we put two of them in the Mishnah, va'aydi detana tarti, once the Tana of the Mishnah lists two cases of two which are four, so Tana Kula, so therefore we just, in this Mishnah here in Mesechet Shevuos, we list all of the cases which are two which are four. And the Gemara continues and says, Pasach b'Shvuos u'mefaresh Yedias Hatuma. What does the Mishnah do? The Mishnah first opens up and says that when it comes to Shvuos, when it comes to Oz, there are two which are four. But then the Mishnah goes in detail when it comes to Yedias Hatuma. Why would we start the Mishnah talking about Shavuos, but then go into the details of Yedias Hatuma and save the details of Shavuos for later? And the Gemara says to that, Aidi dezutran milahu pasuk shari lahu. Since there's relatively few details when it comes to Yedias Hatuma, so we start with that, we give all of those details, and then later on, we're going to get into the details of Shavuos, which are more numerous. V'hadr tani Shavuos dinafishin milayu. Then we're going to learn the details of Shavuos, again, which are more numerous. And the Gemara continues, Shavuos shtayim shein arba. Again, it said in the Mishnah that when it comes to Shavuos, you have two which are four. There are two primary, and then there are two secondary. And what does it mean? It means as follows: Shtayim, the two primary violations are sha'ochel v'shalo ochel. In the future tense, the person takes a shvuah that I will eat something, or let's say he takes a shvuah that I will not eat something. Shein arba, but then we have secondary cases as well, to a total of four. That would be in the past tense, achalti v'shalo achalti. Let's say the person takes an oath that I ate, or an oath that I did not eat. In the past tense, that would be the other kind of shvuah. And Yedias Hatuma shtayim shein arba. When it comes to Yedias Hatuma as well, there are two which are four. Shtayim, the primary two are Yedias Tumas Kodesh v'Yedias Tumas Mikdash. It would be the knowledge of Tumas Kodesh and the knowledge of Tumas Mikdash. And Rashi explains Yedias Tumas Kodesh means Shenelma Mimenu Tuma v'Achal Kodesh. It means there was a lapse of an awareness that he was Tameh and he ate Kodesh. And Yedias Tumas de Mikdash means Yedias Shenelma Mimenu Yedias Tuma v'Nichnas LaMikdash. There also he had a lapse of awareness. He didn't realize that he was Tameh and he entered the Beis HaMikdash. Those are the primary two. Essentially a lapse of awareness when it comes to the Tumah aspect, but the person did realize that it was Kodesh, or he realized that it was the Mikdash. But shehein arba, but then it's totals 4 because there are 2 secondary cases. What does that refer to? Kodesh u'mikdash. That refers to Kodesh and Mikdash, meaning to say that the person did not realize this was Kodesh. The person did not realize that this was Mikdash. Those would be the secondary cases. Rashi explains, Yedias Kodesh shenelma mimenu Yedias Kodesh. There was a lapse of awareness in terms of knowledge that this is Kodesh. V'savar she'ein ze Kodesh. He thought it wasn't Kodesh. Umitchila yada. Originally he did know that it was Kodesh. That's why we say it's a lapse of awareness. He knew originally it was. Then there was a lapse of awareness. He did not realize it was Kodesh. Again, those are the secondary cases. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. Yitzias Shabbos Shtayim Shein Arba. The Mishnah then said that when it comes to taking out on Shabbos, carrying from one rishus to another, you have 2 primary cases, and then you have a total of 4 because you have 2 secondary cases. And the Gemara explains the cases. Shtayim, the Shtayim Hotzad Da'ani v'Hotzad Da'Balabais. The 2 primary cases are when the poor person takes it out to the Rishus Harabim, or the Balabais takes it out to the Rishus Harabim. The Gemara here is referring to a scenario where the Ani comes to the house of the Balabais. He wants to get, let's say, some food or something from the Balabayas, so you can have a situation where the poor person reaches his hand into the house and takes something out of the house and brings it to the Rishus Harabim. That's Hotzad Da'ani. You could also have Hotzad Da'Balabayas, meaning the Balabayas who's standing in the house, he reaches, he takes something in his hand and he gives it to the Ani who's standing outside, so he brings it from the Rishus HaYachid to the Rishus Harabim. Both cases going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus Harabim. It's just a question of whether the person who's carrying the items, he's standing in the Rishus Harabim or is he standing in the Rishus HaYachid. Shein Arba, that's a total of 4 cases, meaning you have 2 secondary cases, which is just Hachnasa, the other direction. Hachnasa the Ani, V'Hachnasa the Balabayas. Let's say the Ani is the one who causes it to go into the house. He reaches his hand into the house and puts something there. Or you can have Hachnasa the Balabayas. The Balabayas reaches his hand outside of the house, takes something from the Ani, and brings it into the house. Again, both going in the direction from the Rishus Harabim to the Rishus HaYachid. Those would be the secondary cases. And then there's Marus Negoyim, Shnayim Shein Arba. But when it comes to Marus Negoyim, when it comes to cases of tzaras, you have 2 primary, and again a total of 4 because you have 2 secondary. What are the shnayim? What are the 2 primary cases? Se'es u'baheres. That refers to the se'es and the baheres. Those are kinds of tzaras. Shein arbon, it's a total of 4. Se'es v'toldasa, that means you have se'es v'toldasa, means the secondary type of se'es, and baheres v'toldasa means baheres. You could also have a secondary kind of baheres. And the point over here is these are referring to various colors of white kind of tzaras, and then you can have other colors that are not exactly the primary cases of tzaras, but they are secondary. And the Gemara continues and says, Mani Masnisan, who is the author of our Mishnah? Lo Rabbi Yishmael v'lo Rabbi Akiva. It doesn't seem to be Rabbi Yishmael, and it doesn't seem to be Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yishmael, because if you're going to say it's Rabbi Yishmael, ha'amar eino chayev elo al ha'asid lavo. He says that when it comes to Shevuos, you're only chayev if it's made in the future. A person says, I'm going to eat, I'm not going to eat. That's the only cases where there's a liability, referring to the fact of bringing a carbon. And Rabbi Akiva, and if you're going to say the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, ha'amar al helam tumah hu chayev. He says there's only liability if there was a lapse of an awareness of the tumah. V'yeino chayev al helam mikdash. But a person is not liable if there was a lapse of awareness in terms of, let's say, this is the Beis HaMikdash. And so therefore, again, it can't be Rabbi Yishmael or Rabbi Akiva, because the whole point of our Mishnah is that in the secondary cases, it seems to be there is a liability. And the Gemara continues and answers, Iboy same Rabbi Yishmael, Iboy same Rabbi Akiva. If you want, I could say that the Mishnah is Rabbi Yishmael. If you want, I could say it's Rabbi Akiva. Iboy same Rabbi Yishmael. If you want, I could say it's Rabbi Akiva. Mehen lechiyev, umehen leftor. All the Mishnah means is you have 4 cases total. Some of them there's a liability, and some of them there's an exemption. It doesn't mean to say that all of them there's liability. Iboy same Rabbi Akiva. And if you want, I could say the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Same answer. Mehen lechiyev, umehen leftor. You can say that some of the cases there's a liability, and some of the cases there's an exemption. And the Gemara says leftor. You're saying that some of the cases there's an exemption, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Gimel Amid Beis.